Hello, good morning. I welcome you to this session about best cases and project reports. My name is Dimitrios Vlachopoulos. I am Research Associate at the eLearn Center of the Open University of Catalonia, and I will be the moderator of this session. As you know, 3 presentations are planned during this 1 hour and 15 minutes, so we have to control really strict the timing of this session, and each presentation should last 20 minutes and then have 5 minutes for questions and comments. I start directly with the first presentation. Instead of Philipp Schmidt, we have another co-founder of the peer-to-peer university, Joel Thurstein. He will present a paper about the peer-to-peer university based in Cape Town University, South Africa.
Very good, thank you. Thank you and welcome. It's an honor to be here. It's wonderful to be in this beautiful city of Barcelona. I brought with me one of our students from Peer-to-Peer University. Nadim is here with me to help in the presentation. I want to talk briefly about how Peer-to-Peer University was founded, and then a little bit conceptually about who we are. And then I would like Nadim to maybe share some of his experiences as a student in Peer-to-Peer University and why he came on board. I'll explain who our students are and why they chose to come to Peer-to-Peer, and I'll let Nadim give his version of that as well. Briefly, there were a group of us that got together in a series of conferences starting in 2007 in Dubrovnik, and then the next time we met was in Japan. And we began to talk about changing the university structure and experimenting with how information is passed, educational content is passed from one person with knowledge to another. And one of the things that all of us agreed on is that oftentimes the people with knowledge are not always just the faculty, but also the students who have knowledge as well. And that many of us had the experience that in some of our coursework we learned more from the students than we did from the instructor. Or certainly an equal amount. Now, I have to be careful because now I am a university professor and administrator, and so I have to be mindful of my employer. However, we also understand that the system is structured so that it is a collaborative environment, and we do this intentionally. The beginnings of the Oxbridge system nearly 1,000 years ago was structured so that the students could learn from each other, and the students were a part of the learning process and the knowledge creation process. And so when we got together, we started to talk about this and how do we structure something so that there would be a peer learning environment. And one of the things we talked about is, could this peer learning environment exist without an instructor present? We decided that it's possible. However, some guidance was needed. There had been a variety of experiments that had gone on up to that point where institutions had or people had come together and put out just an environment with no facilitation and no structure. And the experiments did not work well. And so we decided to add some structure to the original idea, which was, again, a completely facilitatorless and no professors involved at all. But we decided then to have some structure. And the first thing we did was we added facilitators whose role it was to make sure that materials were available, that they would take on the basic role of the instructor, but at a very removed level, a very remote level, so that they would just bring the idea of the concept to the course, and then the students would kind of take over from there. We also decided that just to have this platform exist and then have different facilitators appear at different times, this was a difficult task also because there would be no coordinated marketing effort so that who would know when to sign up for what and how would things occur. And so we decided initially to give it just a start, to have some structure in terms of the course length would be 6 weeks. We would have the start time all consistent, and so we again added that little piece of structure. That piece, and as well as the idea long term, is that piece, as well as the facilitation piece, will eventually go away. That people will be allowed. Once there's momentum behind the concept, then the concept will then take off on its own, and we are starting to experience this already. So formally, we started 2008. Is that right? I think that's right. Our first session ran in the fall, September, October 2008, and we had 6 courses was the first time, I think. And we had instructors from different parts of the world. We had instructors and students from all over the world. And the students, again, came for a variety of reasons. The instructors also, or the facilitators, came for a variety of reasons. And I'll come back to that in a little bit. But just for the timeline progression, we went from that, we've now run 3 consecutive sessions over the course of the last 2 years, and now we are at a point where we are ready to start to release the model and let it go a little bit, and to start having different kinds of opportunities for people to offer courses of different lengths. People to offer courses at their own time frame. This will occur gradually over the next 12 to 18 months. And so because we believe there's enough momentum already behind the project, that because the number of students, the number of course offerings has tripled in the last basically 18 months. And so it's very exciting. And so we are prepared to kind of start to step back from and go actually step forward towards the original concept of a facilitator-less or no instructor kind of situation, where the course length is dependent on the student's interests. And there are different structures that can be incorporated when we're talking about different structures, and different instructors and different facilitators do things differently. When we opened it up for instruction, the facilitation went everything from what we had originally talked about, where the concept was put on the table and the students were allowed to come together, or the peers were coming together in discussion groups and things and discussing that topic and working with each other, to much more traditional settings where the instructor said, here is the materials you have to read, here are the courses you have to take, and you get this piece of paper at the end that says, I was a student at peer-to-peer university or whatever, and you graduated with this. But that's instructor-led, not our organization. We just facilitate the possibility of courses being taught. I'd like to allow Nadim a chance to talk about it from the student perspective, why he came as a student. He also then advanced beyond the student to become a facilitator or co-facilitator in a class. And so just to give you a little background on from a different perspective other than one of the founders. So, Nadim.
Hi, everyone. I've had about 30 seconds before I walked into this auditorium, and I was told I was going to be helping Joel present, so you'll have to forgive me. So I kind of learnt about peer-to-peer university at the Open Ed conference in Vancouver last year. And I remember vividly sitting in the audience when Joel and Philipp and Stian and some of the others, some of the other founding members were kind of describing what peer-to-peer university was going to be. And I won't repeat exactly what I thought, but it was something along the lines of, they're crazy, this will never work. I can't see, because my background, all of my educational experience, both studying at university and also tutoring and teaching, seemed to be at odds with what they were describing. But I was fortunate enough, and still am, to work for a company a company called Talis, that encourages us to get involved in open projects that we have a passion for. And I remember sitting in that audience thinking, what better way to find out than to get involved and see if I can have the kind of educational experience that I really loved when I was at university. So can I have that one moment where you think, wow, it was worth it? So the course I signed up for was cyberpunk literature. partly because I already love the material, but also it's probably not something you can study at a traditional institution. And one of the things about peer-to-peer university is we do a lot of fringe stuff. And the experience I had was amazing. The course got together. I think it started off as almost 15 people that whittled down to about 7 or 8 that contributed all the way through. And essentially we self-organised. Our facilitator, Rebecca, was amazing in that I only found out afterwards she wasn't actually familiar with the material. Yet all the time through it I thought she was an expert. But essentially she was really on hand to ensure that the class, when we were having our weekly discussions and working out what the assignments were going to be, so that was the interesting thing. Although the classes had been kind of designed by Rebecca initially at the launch of the course, we all got together and decided, actually this week we want to take a different route, we want to explore a different set of ideas, and the assignment, we want to change it to be something else. So they varied from having to write, blog posts or essays, but it was always open to interpretation. So I remember one piece was write something about the aesthetic in cyberpunk, and for those of you who know anything about cyberpunk, that's not the easiest thing in the world to kind of write, and I'm not the best writer in the world. So I decided to interpret the assignment slightly differently and created a set of Flickr slideshows, and that was my submission. And it was the other students on the course that had to provide feedback. So actually one of the kind of metrics we used, or the ways we kind of judged how well somebody was doing in the course, wasn't just whether they were contributing to the discussions and completing the assignments, it was also that they were providing feedback on everybody else's work. And when you're a relatively small group, it was functioning like a study group, a typical study group at a university, and certainly the kinds that I remember when I was studying. And I think that's why I kind of fell in love with the idea. Now, whether it scales up to all the other things that we have to contend with in education, I'm not sure. But I think the reason I kind of committed and stuck with peer-to-peer university is it's an experiment. I think we all kind of recognise that. But it's also, I think what's different in many ways is we're actually trying to do stuff. And there is, I think, sometimes in the open education movement, a kind of analysis paralysis where we want to think long and hard about how we perfect something, when sometimes you've just got to say, we don't know what's going to happen, let's wade in, experiment, learn from our successes, but we're going to learn a hell of a lot more from our failures. And that's certainly what comes out in the reflection we have at the end of each of the cycles, and actually the community goes through every day as the courses are running. So I'm enjoying it.
Thank you. We've had a variety of successes and a variety of failures, and there have been different challenges as we've gone along. One of the significant challenges is how do you keep students engaged, or how do you keep the peers engaged, or even should you? And so we're still struggling with some of that. We're also struggling with again the concept of facilitator. What does the facilitator do? We have courses like the one Nadim describes, which again were very close to the original concept, where Rebecca, who he talked about, was really just a facilitator and nothing more. And it was wonderful. That example you gave is wonderful, because the student's perception is exactly that the facilitator is the all-knowing, because that's the mindset that they come out of, or that we all come out of. That's how we were taught, and that's how we learned. But in a peer-to-peer environment, that's not how you learn, and that's not how you're taught. You share, and so it's a much different way of doing things. And so we're changing the way society, or trying to follow along with society's changes in how they learn, because we learn already that way. It's just formally it doesn't occur that way. And so we're providing a semi-formal environment where peer-to-peer learning can occur, and that's an interesting bridge to be on in the academy. Are you part of the academy or not? Are you Facebook? Which one are you? Because people learn from Facebook as well, and social learning environments. And so it's an interesting situation. For better or worse, the peer-to-peer concept has not been a failure. It's been a roaring success. And so now we're trying to figure out how to deal with all the success, because we have so many interested parties and organizations. Now it's difficult to balance all this in such a short period of time. And I misspoke. It was not 2008. It was 2009 when we ran the first year. So it's only been 1 year since our first round of courses ran. And we had our first course courses taught in the third week. As I said, this is our third session. This was the first time we had courses taught in a different language, and so we had multiple courses taught in Portuguese. There was a large Brazilian contingent that took a hold of the concept and ran with it, and so we had courses going on, full courses in Portuguese. The difficulty is the main peer-to-peer website is in English, and so we have a problem already, and so we're looking at internationalizing the site and making the site much less cumbersome, because if you can read the language, you can follow the process to get into the site and figure out where you're going. If you don't, finding your course is nearly impossible, and so that was the biggest feedback we got right away. So the tech team is now working at peeling back all the wonderful things they did and saying those were not good, not helpful. Now we have to put in just basic entry points, and then you go to where you need to go. And so we can make the initial entry point multilingual, and then we go from there. And so it's exciting. We've had interest from other groups now because of the Portuguese experience or because of the Brazilian experience. And so we're looking at just expanding beyond the English-speaking world, which is, again, wonderful to be here in Spain, moving in that direction. I think we'd like to open it up for questions, if that's okay. And I apologize for our last-minute change. I am not Philipp Schmidt, as Demetrius said. And I also have another presentation right at this time, so I'm going to be leaving right after this. But you can find me in the hallway here talking if you have questions. But now I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. If you like, present yourself, please, as well.
Okay. Russ Osgathorpe from BYU. Do you do grades, credit, degrees? What do you do with those things?
Would you like them?
It'd be nice to get rid of them, yeah. But what about credit?
No, this is one of the things.
Non-credit. This is just kind of enrichment learning.
Or not.
It
can be.
Okay.
We've had interest from several universities in the United States about potential. This might transfer for credit, or how do we count this for credit? And again, we're offering 6-week only courses now. So once there's an opportunity for longer courses, then the universities are more interested because it's much more traditional. It fits into their credit model, and then they would offer the instructor or the instruction process, and then there would be some assessment probably that they want to know, can they charge for the class, and we say no for that. You can't charge. But if you do your assessment on the side, that's your business. So the study could go on open, the assessment charged, whatever the business models will form around this probably.
So institutions contact you individually and work out something to participate.
Ultimately they probably won't have to, but right now, everybody goes through us. There's a council that monitors all of this activity.
So how many are involved now?
I think last time I looked at the figures, there were about 1,300 people that were participating in one way or another as kind of students or learners, and I think the kind of core community those members of the community. Oh, sorry. And I think the kind of core communities are those people that are kind of interested in moving peer-to-peer university forward. So that's probably still less than 50.
Yeah.
So we're very much still human scale. So I think one of the things that came out of our workshop before Open Ed started was that we want to wait and see rather than try and worry too much about putting too much structure into the organisation. Because we're already doing things, for example, with the School of Webcraft and Mozilla around certification for a set of web courses. And I think we're just going to see how this emerges and who steps forward and wants to work with us. I think that's probably fair to say.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is yes. Do you want that?
So first a comment, then a question. I'm Tom Caswell, Utah State University. I just wanted to add to the question about the certification credit question. I think I took the Copyright for Educators course, the first round, and I just approached one of my advisors and asked. I worked out my own credit situation. I think I was the first person to get university credit for a peer-to-peer course. So it can be done. I actually don't necessarily think that it should come from the universities as much as it should come from the students, because it's going to be an individual situation. And actually the 6-week format is excellent for an intensive kind of course. But then just, I just want to mention that basically I don't even remember who my instructor was. I just remember the other student that stayed, Molly Kleinman from Michigan, and just the rich experience that it was to work with a librarian with such a different perspective on educational copyright. So I think really in this model, the facilitator, instructor, whatever you want to call that person, kind of fades out of the picture. And I think that's what makes P2P use special. My question is about sustainability. Sorry to use the S word, but I'm interested to know how long are you funded, and and then after that, if you have plans, where you see it going.
Sure. And we worry an awful lot about sustainability in the open world, and I think we need to worry less about that because there have been many organizations who take in no money, who've been around for hundreds of years because the idea is a good one. So that's my word on sustainability. But I will answer your question anyway. The project at the moment is sustainable forever because there's no money involved. We have money to fund, as Nadim said, the workshop, so people come from all over the world to get together in one spot. If we didn't do that, would they come anyway? Probably. And so right now it's nice. We're all paid for it to come here. We're not paid for our jobs, but we're paid for the airline tickets and the hotels and things for the workshop. And so we're in the process of incorporating. So incorporation brings in new costs. And that unfortunately requires some funding. The cost that it requires to fund that is a very small amount, and the amount will probably be paid for the next 10 years for sure. At that point, it could be in any one of a number of sources. So we're probably funded for quite a while. And then again, if everybody walks away and the incorporation falls apart, the platform stays. People are volunteering to work on the platform. That's all developed free. The instructors are all free. The students are all free. So there's no cost. And as long as the idea remains viable, it will remain a viable institution. So I'm not really concerned at all about sustainability, and then the incorporation can go away. It doesn't matter. It's just a convenience at the moment.
I think one of the things I'd probably add to Tom's original point was, I think one of the things that will probably sustain certainly the interest is when you do have an experience like Tom did and I did, where you suddenly realise that there's other people that have a real interest in some of the stuff that you're interested in. That social interaction doesn't stop at the end of the course. It carries on. So when I made the point about it still being fairly human scale, it's because we still have those interactions continuously amongst the community, both as individuals, but as well as the community around an individual course or the wider community at Peer-to-Peer University. So eventually we're going to grow to the point where we can't kind of carry on like that. But I think we're not there yet, and we're going to see what it takes us. And it is an experiment that, for the moment, seems to be working and working pretty well.
Hi, my name is Eva. I'm working at the eLearn Center, and I wanted to ask you about who decides which are the courses that you're going to offer. How is who decides that?
So right now there is a submission process because we started off very formal. We debated that as well, to just let everyone offer whatever course they want, or to have some structured process to get things started. We decided because of we didn't know kind of where people would come from and what the interest level was in the first round. And this was, again, only 1 year ago. So we decided to have a structured process initially where you would have to go through, you would submit your idea through the website, which is, I think, everywhere now. You would submit your idea for a course, then it would be approved by the council. There's a group that does that. There's multiple councils, but I think there's a group that Nadim talked about that's about 50 people that review the materials and then submit comments, and then I don't know whether we've ever turned down a course. I think they've all been accepted. So the idea is that they would all be accepted. Ultimately, this is a space for people to come learn. There's no vetting. But at the beginning, we decided to have some vetting process to make sure that things would go smoothly and that people didn't just have an idea and 5 minutes later decide, I don't want to do that, and walk away.
And I guess it's also a way of kind of ensuring that when people submit ideas, there's a certain level of commitment to them as well. So you can't just submit something and then disappear. Unfortunately, I don't think we've ever had that situation.
No.
And I think other people, so some people want to facilitate or do a course because they want some sort of recognition for that. That's fine, because the community itself will recognise their input. Other people probably want to do it because they just want to be able to share, an interest. Or I had an idea for a course the other night, which I probably won't repeat right now, because I need some help learning how to shop for my wife. But I think that's the wonderful thing. So if you have an idea and you really think there's an interest, we'll kind of support you to see that through. And the interest, and for me, I think personally, whenever some of the courses struggle, what we learn in terms of the feedback from both the students and also the facilitators helps us kind of feed that into the next round, and we just want to keep building on that and see where this takes us.
Heidi Gartenberg from University of the People. First of all, we think what you guys are doing are great. You're disrupting the academy, and we're trying to be the academy, but we're depending on you, I think, to put some research out there in terms of what are the critical success factors for achieving learning. So we're still maybe not giving grades in your environment, but obviously the objective is for people to learn something. So I'm interested to know a bit about what research is in the works and what we can expect to learn from you.
Okay, so we do have, so one of the things we decided at the workshop was we were going to have some self-organising groups within Peer-to-Peer University. So one of the groups is our research group, and its responsibility is not only to identify research projects within Peer-to-Peer University, but also to help people outside of Peer-to-Peer University kind of use some of the data that we've collected on participation and stuff to do their own research. So I don't know if you guys were at Giotto's talk on peer-to-peer interactions. There were a couple of talks done by the Open University, so that was all based on working with our research group to try and get that information and to kind of sit outside of Peer-to-Peer University and look in and provide kind of, I guess, an impartial sort of view on that. And actually that kind of study is going to be hugely invaluable for our own internal reflective processes as well.
Thank you very much.